Welcome to First Dates and Soulmates, where the most stressful, traumatic thing that's going to happen in your romance today is that maybe your souffle won't fully bake up and it'll be really sad. Oh! I'm your co host, Meg Casebolt.
I'm Nikki McKnight.
And this week we are talking about cozy romance. And we are doing that with the inimitable Megan Eckman. Megan, thank you for being with us today.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to get cozy.
Yeah, I feel like I should be wearing like a big comfy sweater. I should have a blanket. There should be like a hot chocolate or fire or something nearby. But I'm sorry, it's 40 degrees Celsius here today and it's hot. So no, but that's the vibe I'm channeling today. So imagine.
I imagine there should be like flannel. There's like, I want to like, this is a fall vibe to me in some ways. Like there should be practical magic on in the background, especially knowing that you write paranormal and some magical pieces.
Mhm.
But like to me, cozy feels very, very like indoorsmanship. Maybe I'm
Yes.
wrong.
I don't know, because like if it's hot summer, I don't want anything touching me.
Yeah.
So there's no cozy vibes. I'm like, it's too hot.
No
The humidity
cuddles.
is high. No cuddles. Please keep a respectable distance and bring me a cold beverage.
So Megan, how do you define cozy romance?
So I'll be honest, I had to go look this up because for me, it's always been feelings. And so to actually figure out like what sets it apart, it's one of those things where when you read it, you know it, but to put it into words was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to go to the internet. So what I learned, and it's true, like I just had to put it, verbally process it. It is about, there's always a lot of hope and kindness in it. It is always a lot more about growing in emotional stability and security than sexual attraction. So it's a lot of people overcoming obstacles with communication versus violence. So to me, cozy, it can be low stakes, it can be no stakes, but it's a book that when you enter it, even more than romance, the promise is like it's gonna be okay, like times 10.
Like the psychological safety is there. You don't have to worry.
There's the trigger warnings are like there's none.
Your
Or
therapist is
they
like,
might use milk.
I was gonna say the bakery might need to change its name. Like it's not like huge stakes issue.
It's not huge stakes, and it's not fabricated stakes. It's not artificial. Your therapist is probably like, thank God she's finally reading a safe book with like all green flag characters.
I think it's something about like the world itself is fundamentally safe and good. Characters
It
are
is.
mostly nice people, and communities are supportive, and even like antagonists are like maybe misguided, but they're not like malicious or mean or like devastatingly horrible.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, there are sometimes bad people. A lot of times it's misunderstood people. And so there is still this overarching feeling of hope and kindness and community will prevail and will be what is needed instead of a chosen one to fix the problem. So you're right though, like the whole world is just it's lower stakes. It's an escape. And I think in times of instability, that's when you see these sorts of books really skyrocket because we're like, please just give me like I just want to like you can imagine it your world. I just want to live in it for a little bit where they don't turn on the news and it's, just doom every day, where it's just like, oh
No.
no, a bakery has too many cinnamon rolls. I mean, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, I like that you say like in times of instability we see a rise in cozy, and I think that when the world is on fire, we certainly saw the trends show this that during COVID there was a huge flood of people reading romance generally, and I think that the romance got a little bit polarized in that way too, which is some people went dark and like weird, and some people went cozy. And the dark weird folks were like, no, I want to like really see like the dystopian side of things, or I want to like have like some BDSM in there, and like I want to like escape into a world that's worse than mine, so that way when I'm in my world I'm like, well, at least I'm not living in a mafia basement, right? But then there are the folks that go to the cozy side, which is, it's going to be okay. It's going to be safe. There's still people who believe that this world can be a good place. And then we get a little bit of the weirdos in the middle who are like, we talked about this with Morning Glory Milking Farm and how that came out during a pandemic, which is like, it's cozy monster, but it's cozy. And
Still cozy, yeah.
I think that's the first time that we talked cozy on the podcast was Minotaur.
Yeah, well, I think that's where we talked a little bit about this with like Grumpy Sunshine, is it's not so much like these huge transformations or like it's like no, it's like little cracks in armor. It's like little things. So I think something else I often think about with cozy is it's often someone not like escaping something or like running away from a mafia dungeon, but it's like they're settling into something. And we saw this in Morning Glory Milking Farm. It's like, it's a new town. It's a new life chapter. It's a quieter version of themselves. Maybe they left the city and they're bringing a kid. Maybe they're just getting a new job. Maybe they're getting out of the rat race, or they've just left a relationship and they're kind of hopeful for that next step. So it's like it's this idea of, I'm either going to be healing from something that wasn't overly traumatic. Typically, it wasn't a mafia basement. That's not going to be just my new thing now. It's just mafia basements galore. Or it's like they're building something new because now their life is allowing them to be in a build phase, and they get to have more power or participation in the thing that they are building. And that feels nice. Like a random thing that I actually think is cozy is Schitt's Creek, the TV show Schitt's Creek. Like it's got some small town vibes to it, but like it, for me, the coziness is that there's no homophobia in Schitt's Creek. Despite the fact that these people were extremely wealthy, the Rose family was extremely wealthy, and like some people make fun of them for that, but like no, they more just make fun of them because like they're a little awkward in their new situation. But it's not like, oh my God, like the fact that their money manager stole all of their money, that is never addressed. Like what that compensation or that like restitution process could look like. It's literally like, okay, cool, we're in this new town and everybody is really accepting of us, even though they think we are exceptionally weird. And other people are weird. But so when I think like cozy, I actually think of Schitt's Creek as being very cozy.
Yeah, I can't argue with it. There's so many things where cozy touches on, and cozy has all the genres, right? Because you've got like cozy mystery, you've got cozy fantasy, which is one of my favorites, and then like cozy fantasy romance, which has been topping the charts again. I think too, a lot of people go to cozy. This will sound silly, but you need a palate cleanser. So I was in a feral book club, and after 5 months, I was just kind of dicked out, and I was like, I just need like, can we just have some cuddles and like adult communication?
After Pounded by Produce and
it was after Pounded by Produce.
What was that one? Kiss of the Serpent, whatever. Like there's a lot.
Kiss of the Basilisk was next.
Yeah.
And I saw what was coming after Pounded by Produce, and I was like, can we have conversations and keep our clothes on? I just want the warm fuzzies. I don't need all the rest. And I've seen a lot of people who do the dark, and they need a palate cleanser in between, and they will do a quick cozy read. And so it's been interesting that like in my research, like with audiences, like that's the one that people will come up for air for, is like, it's a gasp of purified air before they're like, back to the mafia basement.
back to the basement. It's like you're in prison, but you get to walk around the yard for an hour. That's what cozy is.
Yes. Yeah.
We talked last month, Nikki and I, about asexual romance too, and how sometimes those characters are asexual, and sometimes like you can have an ace character who is sex averse or who is just sort of sex neutral, or you can have like a closed door romance where it's just not addressed at all. And how does that sort of overlap with the cozy sphere?
So a lot of cozy will and even like the stuff that I write, which is like you'll get to like that, the date, you'll get, sometimes it's only like first kiss. Like that's as far as the book will get you. The whole book is leading up to, I'm emotionally secure enough with you to like say, I think we should live in this coffee shop together. And for me, like in reading these books and also in writing them, what I discovered was that like that I was Demi. And so for me, like I love getting to know the characters enough so that I feel like emotionally safe with them before we're like, let's take some clothes off. Because to me, in those books where it moves so fast, I can't trust the main male character enough yet. So like I don't really care. Oh no, you died. Like didn't care enough. But also I don't trust the female main character enough because I'm like, I don't trust you to have good judgment, girl. Like we have made decisions too quickly. I don't know that I can trust you to like save the world right now because we couldn't even, like we were dressing a gut wound and you were like, ooh, the abs. I'm like, no, he's bleeding out. I'm like, focus. So I think cozy, a lot of times it's almost like two demisexuals or two ace. Like it is a lot of that on the page and it just moves slowly. But you get this much deeper emotional connection than you do in other romances. And I think also you get to watch them feel safe with each other.
Is there a lot of overlap here with slow burn too, or is it just like slow relationship building? How do we define slow burn compared to just like
Ooh.
slower pace of communication? Because I feel like slow burn sometimes has like unevenness to it. I can't come up with the word I'm thinking of, but like it's unbalanced in some way. One person's into the other and they're not aware of it or something. But like it sounds like with cozy, it's just that the pace of the relationship just moves at a slower speed.
Yeah, because generally with cozy, both are moving. Yeah, they're both into it, but it's just moving so much slower. So it is slow burn, but in a different way. Because you're right, a lot of times slow burn in other ones, it's like we get so far and then we're like, oh no, there's obstacles. So now we're gonna go back a few steps, or there's a miscommunication, which you don't get in cozy. You don't get miscommunication tropes because they're all adult enough to have conversations. But that's really interesting because it is a slow burn, but you're right, it's almost more just slow pace, which I
Right.
suppose drives some
Does it
people up the
need to be
wall.
burning? Like it does it need to because I feel like with burn you expect there to be like, oh, there's a spark, there's a match, there's a light, and then eventually it'll explode. But if there's no explosion, then maybe it's just like a long wick, and if there's no burn at all.
I feel like there's a metaphor you could play with there. Yeah, I think that's how I tend to differentiate it in my brain is like slower pace versus slower burn, I think are two separate things. Like most things, it's a Venn diagram. There's overlap. But yeah, I definitely think like the slow burn is there's probably a lot of like tension simmering under the surface, and that's the burn. It's like the if one condition is correct, then things get unleashed, or when scenario is like something changes, like the burn ignites the wick. I don't know where we're going with this candle metaphor, but yeah, there you go. But like the slower pace is like there's no rush. It's almost like the lack of tension creates actually the momentum versus a lot of times we think with like tension or that is the thing that is pushing the narrative forward is like the, oh my god, it's the this, is there a mafia basement, what are they going to do they have a part, and it's like that is what is moving things forward. But I think what you can find in cozy is the lack of that momentum is actually what creates the momentum because it's we get to move from scene to scene, like almost like languidly. We're just gonna, and now we're here, and now we're surrounded by cinnamon buns, and isn't that great? Like it reminds me of like Nora Ephron movies where everything is just like white linen and bowls of limes and stacks of pancakes. It's kind of that vibe, but that is still actually moving the plot forward by its very lack of drama, which seems a little bit antithetical to how plot movements work.
I also
Now I just
feel
want
too
pancakes.
like it's almost like they move in together in a way like in some romances you're like this isn't gonna last, like they're gonna fight over the toothpaste, right? Like when people you know, like when we were all first dating and like you'd watch people move in and then they'd be like, God, I hate the other person. With like slow romance with cozy, like they're already, you can just see them kind of moving in and you know it's gonna be fine. They're like just getting used to everything about the other person. And then they're like, oh, I actually like this person. Like in that way. This isn't just a friend or a good employee. You know, it's like, oh, no, I want to spend more time with them. And here's why. And oh, like like it takes longer to like to notice those things, but I do feel like they tend to mesh better. They complement each other and they help each other more than just sometimes the other romances where it's like somebody has picked two opposites and they're like they will work together. And you're like, you've set them up. There's nothing in the middle for them. Like there's no reason we should get from A to B, like, and it will work. And I feel like more and more now writers are trying to like make even greater odds work just, you know, for the back blurb. And you're like reading it and you're like, but these two would never get along. Like there's like how much backstory do we have to put in to even make a common ground between these two? Whereas with cozy, it's like, oh no, they already fit. Like this is just gonna be like meshing more, but they're each helping each other along the way.
Particular like other tropes that you often see stacked with cozy, like when you were just explaining that, I was thinking about friends to lovers as being really common. That sort of like it could be slow burn or it could just be cozy, right? Where they suddenly have that real, maybe not even sudden, maybe there's nothing sudden that happens in cozy, and maybe that's okay. Where it's like they come to this realization over time, but they're friends first. And that is the foundation upon which the relationship is built. So much of the lead up to the cozy romance is just cozy friendship and low
Yeah.
stakes, and things aren't wrong. And then you go, oh, hey, like maybe we should date. Okay, let's go on a date. Like it's like the low stakes of it all feels like
Yes.
the core piece of it, but also like it fits in so well with many of these other tropes that we have had discussions about.
Yeah, friends to lovers is definitely one of the most common ones, I think, too. I don't quite know if I'd say it's a trope, but like a lot of times the character is either a recluse or, like Nikki mentioned earlier, like moving to a new place where they don't have somebody. So it's about creating that community and that
Mm.
found family. So it's really somebody going from being isolated and protected to feeling safe enough to let other people in, but in the not in the trope of the woman who has her hair pulled really tightly
The Black
back and
Cat.
business suits and is like stick up butt and is like, I need to do everything myself and like I just need to relax. Yeah.
Hmm. And then she pulls down her hair and like, oh, she's actually
Yes.
soft and
And
cute.
oh yes. We don't get that.
No, I think, yeah, with all of this, it's like whatever the worst case scenario is that it's manageable. So people
Yes.
get to express themselves openly because it kind of goes back to what you were talking about in the last episode when we were talking about text messages and voicemails to dead people, like that emotional vulnerability and somebody, you know, like the risk of doing things is quite high in that situation. In these situations, it's like nobody's going to lose anything. They're only going to gain. And I think that's like that gives you a lot of really safe storylines for like things to happen and characters to develop, knowing that it's okay. They're not going to lose anything.
Yeah. I think the stress levels about the world are quite low. There are still there's always still a little bit of anxiety about telling the other person that they like them. So that always kind of comes up because especially with friends to lovers, there's still that like, I don't know, you know, like is it gonna ruin the relationship or am I misreading it? And then a lot of times it is people outside who are like, girl, like
And that's where that comes in, or it's like
get on
other
it.
people are
Like
helping you and supporting you. I love that you brought up
yes.
like that risk taking of it all, that it's internal, it's not like external pressure, it's not any sort of like life changing conflict going on, but it's like, oh, I have to put myself out there a little bit. We when we did our Friends to Lovers episode last November, we built a framework that we called the friendship gamble, because it's like you have to take the gamble of putting yourself out there and risking what you have for something that could potentially be more than that, but you don't know whether or not it's going to work out. And depending on the stakes of, is it cozy, then that might be the big conflict. That might be the tension that ties everything together. Versus, if you have a Friends to Lovers who is also a romantic suspense, then, oh, we're going to be friends to lovers, but the big gamble isn't going to be our friendship. It's going to be, can he throw himself out this building and survive it? And if I find him at the hospital, can he, I get, there's so much more happening there. So it's not that Friends to Lovers itself is the cozy piece, but it's the stakes within that work. But even so, it's the gamble. And that's so often the case with any sort of romance, is what's the risk that you're willing to take to potentially move this relationship forward?
Yes. So I'm always reminded. So my own romance followed the cozy route. Because I started dating what I felt was quite late, and then only did it once for my husband. But I used to write him letters. And so I finally wrote one where I was like, I love you. And that was the first time saying it. And I put it in the letter. And I remember I was on campus and I put it in the mailbox. And then I had an absolute panic attack and tried to get it out of the mailbox. And on my arm stuck in the mail. Because I'm like, no. Change my
I love that. Please tell me that you put
that. My friend had to pull me away from the mailbox and was like, do it now.
Oh my goodness.
Then I had to go over to his place later, I think a few days later. And I was like, we're just going to play it cool. Maybe he didn't get it yet, so we're not going to see it. So the whole day, just sweating bullets, because he didn't say anything. And then right when I was going to leave, he blocked the door and he's like, do you have something you want to say to me? And I was like, nope, good night, man.
I do. Okay. Wow. Okay. Because I feel like that storyline could go one of two ways. One, you end up with your husband, but two, you regret the decision. So you wait by the mailbox until the mail carrier comes to empty it. And you're like, I'm so sorry. You need to give me that letter back. And then you fall in love with the mail carrier. I feel like these are plot lines that could go. That is hilarious. Like that. Or the third version of that is if this was at university or college, if you're in a dorm room, you get the RA or the Don for the floor to let you in to get it before they get it. And then you fall in love with the Don or the RA, right? I have plot lines coming.
Love Nikki's side plots and her alternate universes of Megan's life. Ah.
Yes, you could be with a mail carrier with a really good pension, I guess. Maybe I don't know.
Nikki is fan fictioning your life right now, Megan.
I love. Well, he'd have good cabs too, They have really good lives.
That's pretty good. I like it. I want to talk a little bit about the going back to the heat level thing, because I do think this is characteristic of cozy in that the heat or the spiciness, it's not necessarily a requirement that it be, off page or closed door if it happens at all, but it definitely tends to be a signal. And the heat level per se tends to be something that's private and intimate rather than that combustive, throw you down, tear everything off. Let's go to Pound Town. So the book isn't about the heat, but the heat is a part of the warmth that we feel from cozy. So I'm curious for you, Megan, in your own work or in the stuff that you love, what do you think makes maybe a higher heat, quote unquote, cozy romance work? Or do you feel that it tends to need to be more on I'll call it the warmer side of things?
That's a really good question. I feel like I've seen it done a few times with higher heat. It is not the focus of the book. I think a lot of times it is. Oh, I have the example. Graphic novel lore Olympus. So this is a retelling of Hades and Persephone. It is beautifully illustrated. The final book comes out this October, and I'm so excited because it's an 11 volume
Okay,
series.
I'll wait till the last book
Um,
comes out, and
and
then it'll go on my list.
it's so good. It's so good. And so for them, there is sexual attraction because Persephone is a fertility goddess. So she is like, she's supposed to be one of the chaste goddesses, but she's like, but I feel these things, you know. So there is this attraction, but because of how the myth plays out, they don't get to do anything physical for still like years. We're talking years because of the way that she gets sent to our world and he has to stay in the underworld for so long. And so you still get the cozy buildup of there's been some trauma. We need to heal each other from that so that I can trust you enough to take clothes off, you know, like to go all the way. And so then you do get to see it because it's part of the healing process. So you do get some of the open door, but it's to show that because Persephone, you know, like we know it as the rape of Persephone. So for her to fully heal, we need to see that she's fully comfortable with somebody else. And the writer did even put in some extras where she's like, this was too much for webtoons online, but here it is in the book so you can see this. And you get to also then see, you know, for Hades, like how he has healed as well, but also making sure that he keeps her safe while they're having sex, right? So like you get to see the communication at every step of the way. And so I think that kind of for me is cozy, where you can see that there's attention to someone's safety and comfort at all points. Whereas in a lot of romance books lately I've been reading, I have to skip over because there's too many red flags for me. And it's kind of, I think sometimes it's telling of the author that maybe they don't even realize that this is not okay. You know, maybe
Yeah.
it's how they see relationships, but it's like that is not all green flags. We've normalized it, but it is not all green flags.
I think it's interesting that you use the word healing because it's not one that I associated with cozy like very much. Like I think most of us have in our heads, we were kind of talking beforehand, like cozy is fall, it's winter, it's Christmas, it's Hallmark, it's indoor, it's flannel, it's a bakery overrun with cinnamon buns. And like
Yeah.
that's what creates the vibe. And, we did talk about how, it's slower pace can kind of create that as well. But I think you bringing up healing is a big one because
Yeah.
it's now going to apply to the person coming to usually a new town or a new lifestyle because of something that happened. So the healing is more of like a transition. And then
Yeah.
to the example with the Hades and Persephone graphic novel, the healing can be how someone feels physically in a relationship and how that affects them emotionally or the emotional intimacy of that relationship. Um, Something we've talked about a little bit on the show before is, we were talking about romance needing happy ever afters and what does it mean when certain authors don't have happy endings but still want to classify it as a romance, and are they doing that in the pursuit to legitimize the genre by making it more serious, more literary? And I think, sometimes you can read stories that have this kind of healing component to it. And it does feel like they're also trying to go for that, like legitimizing the genre a little bit. It's like, it's healing, it's drama, it's going from this. But we don't have that element in cozy because the stakes of the healing can still be high, but it's almost like the demonstration of them isn't. And that is one of the reasons why I think some people look at cozy romance or things that are kind of cozy coded, cottage core, Hallmark type things is like, ugh, like it's so saccharine, it's so predictable because it is focusing on healing and goodness. And you brought up kindness a few times, which I think is so true. But I like the word healing in this because I think it's also for the reader or for the viewer, potentially healing something in them as the observer of that piece of work. That's like, we talked a little bit about when people watched the end of season 1 of Heated Rivalry, they expected there to be a car crash during the closing credits because, like, we're just so with this. Or if you watch a TV show, you fully expect Netflix is going to cancel it after season 1, so don't get bought into it. So we get to go through these things and have it heal something in us as the reader or consumer of that media, not just for the characters they're in, which I'm finding this very interesting as it comes to me. about like the paranormal aspect of it and or supernatural aspect of things. So I want to go a little bit into that because I think it is kind of funny when we think about paranormal supernatural, like, oh, it's so other, it's so like different and violent vampires and werewolves and things. But talk to me a little bit about paranormal cozy because I love it. I do read this, but I'm curious, like, how would you describe it to folks on like what that extra element brings into those stories?
Yeah. So I grew up on cozy fantasy. Let's be honest. This is again where the genre is gonna like bloom a little bit, but I think Sabrina the Teenage Witch is a cozy fantasy,
Oh,
right?
oh, interesting. Like the
So
Melissa Joan Hart
sitcoms,
one, not the Kiernan Shipka one.
yes, correct, correct. Yeah, the OG. Because sitcoms in a way also get to be cozy because
Mm,
there's healing in each episode and learning in each episode, but a lot of times due to the structure of a sitcom, um, people do not get to advance too far,
yeah,
right?
for
That's
sure.
why what makes a sitcom is a sitcom is we are in our positions and we don't change much. But I think Sabrina introduced it where you have this found family of her aunts, you get the talking cat. The magic is used in to solve everyday problems. I think also like in some ways like That's So Raven also is like a cozy fantasy.
Ooh.
Because again, she's using magic as like as teenagers would. There's a problem that comes up. What are the stakes? Oh no, the school's play doesn't have, X.
Mm-hmm.
So she'll use her magic and powers to do something like that. So somebody like me like grew up in it. And then my favorite of all time, sadly, when I went to go see it in theater, I was the only one in the theater with my friend. We were
Oh.
the only ones in the whole theater to go see Howl's Moving Castle when it first came out.
Oh, I
With the
love that
whole theater.
movie.
I love the movie, but the book is 10 times better. It's the hill I
I've
will
heard
die
that. I
on.
have not read the book. Yeah.
Oh, the book is 10 times better. I read it every year. And it is the top number one for cozy fantasy on like all the lists.
Wow.
And so in those that magic exists, the world is still a happier place. And magic is simply used to solve everyday problems. So
Hmm.
it is not the end all be all. There isn't a chosen one. And so you just get to see almost like how steampunk uses a different technology. Cozy fantasy just uses a different technology. So it's a magical coffee shop, right? So we've got the cups are enchanted to so your beverage stays the right temperature, or there's talking cat. Like it's just again, it's what are the ways that we would have used that ability to make our lives a little bit better? And
Love the
so
logistics.
I know. And so it's still the world that we live in. But yeah, everything's just for me, I love adding that little dose of magic because I think the real world also a lot of times becomes more magical than the magic in those cases. And that's what's always fascinated me.
Also, like, your stories are also like they're neurodivergent characters. They're people of color. You have a lot of diversity in there too. And so to have a world similar to what Nikki was saying about Schitt's Creek, where like everything's inclusive, like there's no homophobia, there's no racism, there's none of these like really societal structural problems, and
Yeah, and I
people are
like that what you said
accepted for
about
who they are, and we get a bit of magic just for fun to like make
Just for
life
fun.
easier.
I think most of us, if we had a choice, we would kind of be in that magic system world of yeah, my coffee stays warm, or I have a talking pet. Oh, if Reese could talk, I'd be so curious what she thinks. Or I think about, look at what we have in our homes now, like Google Home and Siri and all of these other things to turn on music, to turn on lights, to give me the weather report. Like, I think those are the types of things that most of us would want to have magic for, and they are in their way. You could argue some a form of magic, ooh, technology, but like that's what we want it for is the cozy stuff. And then it makes me think about like the AI conversation about like AI can be used as like a productivity tool, but like why would we use it to do the things that bring us joy and creative and artists and art and things like that? Like make it do the shitty thing. Like write emails or process spreadsheets to help us be more productive. The magic comes when we get to create things as humans. And I think that's like as you're talking, like you're right, that is the kind of like magic system that I really enjoy is like in Howl's Moving Castle, the flaming guy makes breakfast for me. And he, like, the food in Miyazaki movies always
Grumbly.
looks fucking great. But like, you know, the bacon and eggs, is it Caliver?
Calcifer.
Calcifer is the one that like makes breakfast for Sophie and for Hal, and the food looks. I would love a flaming little man to live in a fire pit in my kitchen who would make me breakfast. Like, oh, I like that. That I don't need chosen one, battle to end all things. Oh, I'm suffering through being the specialist boy, non-gendered term. I just want my coffee to stay warm, or for like somebody to fold my laundry for me. Or what's that? It's like in Mary Poppins or in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, kind of where that comes up. Like Bedknobs and Broomsticks, kind of cozy, except for the Nazis. But you know, things are
Yes.
dancing and things are cleaning. Angela Lansbury
Well,
is queen.
and that's what's so fun to write is like, so there's some of my stories where like they change their wardrobe, right? We're gonna be matchy couple, like done, or like you can also use magic to annoy your partner. So like in Howl's Moving Castle, where she cuts up all of his clothes and then sews them back together, but makes them like huge. So you just see Howl like pulling his shirt up the stairs, and it takes like a whole page for him to get the shirt upstairs into the bathroom so he can fix it. And he's like, no, I know she did this. Like, it's Sophie. Of course, she made things go out of control because we were fighting. And so, yeah, I think it just allows you to like those ordinary everyday things, whether it's the joy or the playful jabs. When you add magic in, it just makes it like 10 times. There's so much more opportunity for things to be funny.
It makes me wonder, a lot of the things we talk about with Cozy, we talked about today, have to do with domestic things. It's food, it's drink, it's being in the home, or the feeling of home is very intrinsically a part of Cozy. That makes me wonder, is there cozy romance that exists in the big bustling city of New York? Ever heard of it? Like, I haven't personally read any cozy that takes place in like a big city or a faster paced thing. I'm just curious
There are
if they
in Japan.
exist.
Yep. So there are some
Ooh.
manga. So there's one called Love is Hard for Otaku. And so they are all office workers, but they're also different types of otaku, which is
Oh, they're
somebody
meaning
who's very much
fan,
obsessed. Yes. So there's like two
obsessive
gamers.
fanboys.
There's two gamers, an anime manga person, and a cosplayer. And it's so how do they date and like hang out with people when like their VCR, because it was back in the day, like they're recording all of the anime, and like they just get together and like game for 24 hours, like their whole day off, you know. But they also have to go to work. And so it is them like interacting with their office mates
Yeah.
and trying not to out themselves as otaku because it's such a shame label over there. So I think European ones, it is definitely a bit more domestic. Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter is set in Montreal. But that is just Howl's Moving Castle with cats. And actually all the reviews were like, I didn't care about the plot. I just wanted more cats.
Just want more cats. Oh, I hadn't really thought about like Eastern versus Western concepts of cozy, which is something we actually haven't explored too much on this show, is what does romance look like in other countries? You know,
I'm watching so many Korean dating shows right now. It's hysterical.
Well, I was talking with someone on Threads the other day. We were kind of talking about our comfort watch shows. Like, which ones do you watch? Like, just so you can have like that comfort show, you know what it is. And for me, I'm like, it's Archer, it's The Mentalist, it's Castle. Like, it's kind of procedurals that I already know what happens.
Yeah.
But one of my friends in that thread started bringing up a lot of K dramas and J dramas. And I was like, I used to go to town on J dramas, Japanese dramas, because I didn't really have to watch it to hear it, because I understand Japanese enough that I don't need subtitles most of the time to like get the gist of it. Korean dramas I have to watch full attention because I do not speak any Korean. But we were kind of talking just about like that feeling too. And, you know, we always used to make fun of like J dramas and K dramas in that like they'll never kiss. You'll get a 10-minute shot with like so many cuts of their lips getting closer and then like they get backlit by the sun and then the scene just ends. Or like the big dramatic moment is when they reach out and like they touch fingers and hold hands and they look at each other and like, that was the whole season 1 like climax is they held hands. But we've never really done a deep dive on that. That's interesting. I'd be curious on what that looks like in the future. Cause then I start thinking about like Bollywood and Tamil films also have a very different representation of not only romance, but like what that kind of small town quiet, because some places culturally, they just don't show any of that on screen. Like in early J dramas and K dramas too, it was like, they don't kiss, they don't touch. Like to hold hands is the equivalent of getting down and dirty on camera. And that's as far as we're going to go. So, okay, making a note for future might be fun to do romance around the world and see how they differ. And I'll just make Meg watch a lot of J dramas, K dramas, and like Bollywood and Tamil films.
Yeah. And then the one right now is better late than single. And it is eternal singles who are Korean, which means they've never dated. And they're like put into the dating show and have to interact with other people. And you're right, like they've never touched somebody of the opposite gender. They've never, And so it is really interesting. And in a way it's cozy because they're trying to feel physically and emotionally safe enough in this situation, but they're not used to having to like talk about their hobbies or their job and they've never been on a date, so they don't know what they should do on the date and they're so nervous. And it's just like it's like popcorn. I just knit and watch it and I'm like, oh my god, you're all so cute.
That is fun. Okay, making a note for the future.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Megan. We're gonna do this
Nikki
later.
needed more to watch.
Always. I used to be like, I was just so obsessed with J dramas, like Matsumoto Jin was like one of my favorite actors back in the day because he was in that Japanese boy band group that I can't remember. Sorry, with an A. Arashi was I think the boy band that he was in, and then he was a huge actor, and he was in the Japanese version of Hanayori Dango, which was like, oh my god, so good. But those are also types of media, much like Western cozy romance in small towns, is they draw everything out. That one conversation takes 6 episodes. It reminds me of like old school Dragon Ball Z. If you were ever going to watch that TV show, it's like one battle is 9 episodes and each of them is like Goku going, come in. Episode ends. Next episode.
it's
Next
still
episode.
charging.
It's shooting, right? Like it's really, but that goes to like the slow pace of it. Sometimes the slow pace gets really annoying because you're like, just make a decision. That would be great. But other times, if it's done in like what I would call true cozy, it's like, okay, cool. We enjoy it because now we're just going to see them bake cinnamon buns. And that's great. Cozy.
Closed door. Can you have like a steamy cozy? I feel like you should have cozy that has steam coming out of it to answer this question of like a tea kettle. Yeah, steam.
I think it really has to fit the writing style. And so for me, when I was writing my novel and I got to that part, so it was like 2/3 of the book to get to first kiss, and then she forgets about it because of magic. And then like he watches the memory fade, and it was like, I was like, I'm so sorry, man. I'm so like, it'll come back. I'm so sorry. But like, she forgot. And then I got to the sex scene and I was like, okay, what are we gonna do? And I got so far into writing it, and then I was like, the language, like the shift in the tone doesn't fit this. I
think we have to also recognize reader expectations, which is if you're reading cozy, you don't necessarily want steamy.
You don't. No. So I just needed to take it far enough, and in my neurodivergence is a big thing. And he made her a pen and a notepad, so the pen's connected to her brain, so like her thoughts, so that because she mentioned once that she'd spent a whole makeout session trying to remember to buy her brother a birthday card. And so he made the pen. And so he's like, well, just think whatever you want to think. It'll make a list for you, so you don't have to worry. So they're making out. And then he looks over and he's like, why does it say buy chicken nuggets? And she's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm here for this. He's like, it's fine. That's what I made the list for. But I love that popped into your head right now.
That's amazing. I wish I had
Yeah.
something like that because I will often
Right?
be doing various things. Not that, but I'm going, yeah, I'm out of allergy pills. I really need to pick up more Reacted today. And if I had a magical pen somewhere that could just
You
write
go
all
to
that
magical.
down for me.
Yes.
Somebody
So
invent this. It would probably be like a weird, like neural uplink thing that would be even worse than what is
yeah.
happening with technology today. So probably not. But if this was a magic system world,
Yes.
as we discussed, I'd be down with this magical pen.
Like assistant to the villain is kind of a cozy in the sense that it is such a slow moving, and they finally got to the sex scene, and then she closed the door, and at this point it had been 3 books, and I actually threw my book across the room, and I was like, I've paid my admission, like I deserve to be in the room because I have waited this long. My husband's like, I'm like a pervert.
Yeah.
I was like, it's been 3 months.
Yeah.
And then she like shut the door in my face. Like she opened it so much, and then it was a hard slam. And I was like, no,
Oh.
no. Like, no. I have paid admission by this point. So I think
Nuts.
it can be done in certain ways, and in other ways, yeah, it feels like somebody has handed it off to another writer because it suddenly ramps up way too much, or they don't stick the landing where they're like, I don't
Yeah.
know where to put the door. And sometimes I'm sure you've read them too, where the door almost like hits you too soon, and you're like,
Yeah,
well,
you get
what
startled
happened
by
now?
it.
Did you
Yeah.
just cuddle or what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did the plot move forward, or like the euphemisms sometimes are such where you're like, wait, what? Did
What
we
just
do
happened? What
or
yeah.
did we just go get groceries? You know, like, what did we go do?
I like it. I like it a
But
lot.
yeah, sometimes I think more people are to add spice to it, because I think some writers are noticing that. I think they normally write open door, and then they're noticing that the cozy trend is taking off, so they're trying to like jump in on it, but are not quite
But
used
the audience
to.
might not be there for that.
Yeah.
Right. The reader expectations have to align.
Yes, I
Okay.
did talk to an author too, Kay Valentin, who writes An Amateur Witch's Guide to Murder. And so hers is, I would say it's a cozy male romance. He's got demons, literally, in him. And so she had like one kiss, and it was like an unexpected for the main character. But her editor made her add a second one to ramp it up. And so she did it really well, and it's really worth it. Actually, there's like 2 more that she added to round it out. But that's as far as you get, is like 3 kiss scenes. But it was interesting to hear that her editor made her add some, just because it was almost like too aromantic
limited.
for given the genre we're going to try to stick you into. We need a little bit more because we're not sure what your character's actually feeling in regards to the other character.
Gotcha.
So, to kind of wrap us up here on Cozy Romance, Meg number 1, Meg Casebolt, my co-host Meg.
Technically Margaret, if we need to go there.
I always forget you're a Margaret.
I'm a Margaret.
And not a Megan.
Yeah.
Margaret and Meg. Meg, what do you ship the most about Cozy Romance?
The communication. The fact that they are adults having adult conversations about their feelings, and there isn't a miscommunication that's going to come up and just throw the entire book into chaos. And like, I feel like sometimes people are like, I don't want to read cozy because there's not enough conflict, but like that's what I actually want my life to be. I want my life to be cozy. I don't want a bunch of conflict in my relationship. I don't want a whole bunch of drama. And so like having that in book form feels safer. It feels comfortable. It feels like you don't have to worry so much when you're reading through a cozy. What about you, Megan?
I think I like seeing my sort of romantic relationships reflected back at me.
Seeing your own experience on page is huge.
I like that. That's why I like A-Spec Romance. It's awesome.
And Nikki, what about you, cozies?
There's yearning involved. I think for me, being the extremely high stress, high anxiety theater kid energy individual that I am, that even though I read really quickly, like as Meg said, I read 800, 900 books a year, and I can generally finish like a regular size book in about an hour. For that hour, even though I'm reading the book really quickly, the pace still feels slower to me because the pace of the story is slow. And that actually does a lot for my anxiety to just be like, yeah, I'm reading it really quickly, but because there aren't these huge stakes, these catastrophic things that can happen, these large mafia basements involved, that is actually the rest for my brain to just enjoy and get literally cozy with my iPad as I read these books and just know, like, I already know that things are going to end up okay because it is romance, but the cozy ones, I kind of just get to like slide right through them, which is just really nice to give my brain that break for the hour that I get to read it. Woohoo, cozy. All right. Well, before we get into the final question of what we're shipping this week, a reminder, hide the over to your podcast provider of choice, leave a rating, leave us a review, subscribe, helps more people find out about us, and it does really nice things for the algorithm, and we would totes appreciate. All right, let's talk about our ships for the week. Miss Margaret, what are you shipping?
Only my father-in-law calls me that. It feels weird now. I am still moving through.
You opened that door.
That's
you
true. I
the
did.
Door.
Only when there's a Megan in the room, and I have to be like, well, so my ship of the week, I'm moving through my Courtney Milan Brother Sinister with the first full-length book, which is The Duchess Wars. It's the story of Minnie and Robert. So I talked in a previous episode in one of my ships about the prequel novella where the byblow of the Duke was born, and then there is a legitimate son of the Duke, and the two of them go to Eton together and become friends, and the person who is actually the named Duke is Robert, and so he gets to adjust to the fact that his life would be so different if he'd had a brother, and if his father had been different, and he is so freaking lonely, and his parents fought all the time, and he has all this material wealth, and he has no relationships except for this like illegitimate brother, and he wants to be a part of his family, but like his mom's obviously not gonna like bring him in because she's traumatized by this experience and stuff. And then he meets Minnie, who is afraid of crowds, who wants to be seen as a wallflower, and so she's very reticent to engage in conversation with him, but he is there looking at her, and he's supposed to be out looking for a duchess because, you know, dukes. And he falls in love with this woman who's afraid of crowds and faints when she gets into big environments. And so they have a really beautiful negotiation about why he would choose her and the way that she loves him because he doesn't have anyone else, and she has this big secret that I won't reveal about her past, and he has to reveal it to this big crowd because of needing to save his brother, and oh, it's just so dramatic and the opposite of cozy in pretty much every way it can be the opposite of cozy, and I loved every minute of it. So I'm working through Brother Sinister. This is book 2. This is The Duchess Wars by Courtney Milan. Nikki, what about you?
I am going to ship 2 things really quickly. One is Game Changer Season 8 on Dropout Network. Game Changer is hosted by Samurai. I love everything to do with Dropout. They're so fun. Game Changer is one of my favorite shows on that network because the game changes every single time and the players don't know what game they're playing until they begin. And so far this season, we've had like the Standards in Practice episode. We've had Kangaroo Court. We've had another episode of Roulette, and they've all been absolutely hilarious. I love Samurai and Dropout not only as like content creators, but as a business model. I'm endlessly fascinated by them. And this season has some of my favorite cast members on it so far, like Brennan Lee Mulligan, like Rekha Shankar, Josh Rubin, Demi Ajuibe, Abria Iyengar, and Vic Michaelis were on the Kangaroo Court episode, and they always make me laugh hysterically. The other one, also from a streaming network, is the latest season of Keith Plays a Porn Game by the Try Guys on Try TV. I think it's season 4. This one is Keith Plays a Porn Game in Heaven. This is when it's usually Keith, Rainey, Miles, and Zach. They download like one of those dating app games where you like, you know, click through all the different conversation things and you get to affect the outline. And this season, the characters are in heaven. There's Lucifer, there's dragons, there's angels, there's demons. The first 2 episodes, I believe, just dropped. And the show is just fucking hilarious because you're literally just watching them play these games, and they all put on voices for all of the characters, and it's absolutely hysterical. The first couple of seasons are on Try TV, which is their streaming network. and it's fucking hilarious. The guys are so funny to begin with, but the Keith Plays a Porn Game series, I think, was one of their surprise hits. That they started as an episode on their podcast, and now it's 4 or 5 seasons in. And it's absolutely hilarious.
Oh my gosh, that sounds hysterical.
Game Changer on Dropout, Keith Plays a Porn Game in Heaven on Try TV is what I am shipping.
That's so good. I thought you were going to say he was playing Love in Deep Space.
Megan, what are you shipping this week?
So it is also the kind of the opposite of cozy, but Dynamite Kiss on Netflix. It is a K-drama, but it has a good ending, which, you know, is hard to come by. It takes every romance trope and shoves it into the whole season in a really comedic way. You know, you even get like the little, like the heart filters and everything. But you also, there's a lot of healing for the female main character dealing with all the stress, in her life and just how she views herself. And so it was extremely funny to watch as you're like, oh, they're doing that trope too. And that one, oh my God, and another one. And it just like every episode, you're like, holy cow, that was a train ride. Next one.
So true with K-dramas. Like the drama just does not stop on the train ride.
It does not
Fantastic.
stop.
Megan, where can people find you? What would you like to plug? How can people support you?
Yeah, so I'm at pdxspellbound.com. And so I've got a free, you can get a free month of my subscription. So basically you get a short story. So you get to meet Alex, who is a bisexual witch who keeps using magic to break her car, which is named Barbara Streisand, so she can flirt with her normie mechanic some more. So you get the story, and then you get the lore, because it's fantasy, so you need some lore. You get an itinerary, so you can actually step into, they're all real Portland locations, so you can go on your own date with a mechanic. And then you get a little behind the scenes about where it all started. But yeah, you get to step into Magical Portland with me.
All of those in the show notes. Thank you so much, Soulmates, for joining us again this week. If you'd like to support the show, please follow us on social media. We are at First Dates and Soulmates on most platforms. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe on your podcast provider of choice, and tell a friend. Word of mouth is a great way to tell people that they should listen to the show about all things romance. And if you have a little bit of money you'd like to send our way, you can subscribe to the show on Substack. Do it for 1 month, do it for many months. We're just so happy that you are here. And we also have show sponsorship packages available at firstdatesandsoulmates.com. Thank you again, Megan and Meg, number 1. And thank you, Soulmates. We appreciate you very much. We will see you next time.